Guys, electric vehicles and e-motorbikes are here, and they're here to stay until a newer disruptive technology is found. It is estimated that shipments of electric vehicles will increase from 3 million units of 2020 to 36 million in 2030, growing at a compound annual growth rate of 26%. As the number of electric vehicles grow, the demand for electricity from the grid will increase and cause instability in the supply. The increasing demand for EV requires an expansion of the available charging infrastructure and their availability at locations of need. Two of the greatest concerns for EV buyers is lack of charging facilities, followed by the EV driving range. So there are a lot of opportunities to tap into the EV charging stations market. In this video, we look at how to set up a small semi-permanent off-grid EV charging station with its own storage system to be stationed along a heavy traffic corridor to serve motorists with emergency charging. The system comprises of a PV source, a grid-ready inverter charger with storage, an EV charger, and a billing system. So guys, let's get to work. So let us look at the development steps. The first point is to look at the solar system superstructure. Next, we look at the solar panel selection. The third point is to look at the inverter charger selection, then the battery selection. Then we do the electric vehicle charger selection. Then number 6, the charger adapters, billing system. Then finally we look at the system costing estimate. So in this section we take a brief look at the structure, and here we have the container which the front part has been made such that we have a door. Then the focus of course should be our structure above the container, which is comprised of IPE sections, 5 of them running in north-south direction and 2 running in east-west direction. So those 5 are sitting on these 2 that are in the east-west direction. Then we have this heavy gauge 2x1, which of course provides the platform for the C-purlin sections to sit on. Then on each side we have 6 C-sections running on east-west direction, and the C-sections are pre-drilled to match the holes of the panels so that when they are placed on top, then they can be bolted onto the C-sections. Of course, the C-sections can also be bolted using brackets onto the triangular seat for the C-sections. So a lot of drilling. We have at the back here braces that support the panel seat, so the braces run across on the back side of these panel seats up to the end on this side. So essentially that is what there is here. If you are in a position to do a bigger version of this, then we have a look at it. So this is a bigger version of the structure, which now gives you 4 ports. Of course, 4 ports with 2 charging outlets depending on the power output. And what there is that this particular model can hold 36 pieces of a 550 bifacial solar panel. We have 18 on this side and 18 on the other side. So depending on your capabilities, then of course you could have this one. Then we have the box here, which is the point where we'll be keeping the batteries and the inverter. Then the EV chargers are placed such that vehicles can come in and park into those slots. So nothing much on this. We move to the next section to look at the other components of the system. Our system is a commercial grid level 2 DC EV charger connected to a 15.2 kilowatt solar power and a 96 kilowatt hour lithium ion battery bank. The objective is to allow several EVs to top up. Literally, because you've been in a corridor, heavy corridor, then the vehicles will be coming to top up, maybe to move to the next station and so on. So the idea is not to charge the vehicle full time, although it can happen. After all, they're paying for it. So when we look at this, we see that our charging level is level 2. The amount of power we are producing per charger is 6.6 kilowatt, and there are 2 of them. Then the estimated charge time for moving the battery of the vehicle from 20% to 80%, that is 30 kilowatt. The time is 4.5. And what we need to know is that the estimated range per hour of charge, this is for 1 hour, they're expected to make around, say, 42.2 kilometers. This is based on the fact that most EVs will cover between 3 and 4 miles per kilowatt. So that's how we arrive at this figure. So let us look at some charging scenarios which are currently in the market. In this case, this is a DC AC and AC DC. This is what is very common right now. In this case, we have the solar power going into an inverter charger, and which charges the battery, and there's power going to the grid if it is connected when there's surplus, and then we can be able to charge our vehicle through an EV charger. Now, if there's excess power, of course, that power will be sent to the grid. But remember that our system that we want to do is a solar power station that will be somewhere along the transport corridor, and probably you might not have grid connected to your system. So we will be purely dealing with the solar side of power supply. The other scenario, charging scenario, is using a bidirectional vehicle to grid. And in this case, what happens is that we still have our solar power supplying the inverter charger. Then we have the vehicle to grid bidirectional charger. And what happens here is that the power can either go to the vehicle, or if the vehicle is charged, it can come back to the system. Then if there's excess, then it can be sold to the grid. But in this case, in our case, we are not looking at this. We just want to charge the vehicle and let it move. So this is just for our knowledge of the existence of this vehicle to grid. The other charging scenario is where we have a DC-DC converter EV charger. This system actually should be in the market, but they are very rare. It is hard to get this converter which charges a vehicle directly with DC. The point here is that the issue is manufacturers don't find it maybe having a bigger market, in the sense that most homes already have grid power, and that's why most of them have adopted the manufacturing of the grid power to charge the vehicle using AC, and not finding those which use DC directly to charge the vehicle. So the other charging scenario is where some manufacturers are now combining the inverter charger and combining it with the EV charger to produce one unit. Most of the fast chargers are probably constructed in this format, where they've put these two together to charge your vehicle. And also some manufacturer has developed a combined unit, which now they're offering as a single charger with an inverter incorporated together with a level 2 charger. So more of these are now getting into the market. Now we look at another form of charging scenario. In this scenario, we have the PV system supplying power to the inverter charger, which then charges the battery. But Because the battery level here, especially a mass storage battery, the voltage ranges from say 200 or 152 all the way up to 750 or probably more. There could be some possible direct connection to charge the vehicle, linking it with your battery so that the charge goes directly to that vehicle. This kind of scenario is not very common. Maybe it will be there in the future or something like that. That finishes the scenarios that we have. We now look at how our system is going to be wired, going back to scenario 1, which we saw earlier. And our proposed system is an arrangement of 2 inverter chargers connected in parallel and producing single-phase AC, which supplies the AV charger. And the inverter charger has 2 MPPTs which supply the inverter. And so in this particular case, the reason why we are using this is that this system is scalable, so that when you start small, but as the time grows, then you can be able to add additional inverter chargers and increase the PV array. So it gives you room for growth. And that's why we've chosen this kind of a design. So the 2 produce 230 AC, to which the EV can be connected and the power supplied to the vehicle. Now it happens that you may not be in a place where there is AC power, so this is just a demonstration that this system can be extended to put excess power to go into the grid. In this case, we now look at the system single line diagram, and essentially this is just expanding what we have seen in the previous slide. And here we have now opened up the diagram so that you can see in detail what we have. These are the arrays, which are 6 pieces by 633 watts, and we are using a bifacial solar panel connected to the inverter charger, which are linked by this communication line. The 2 inverters are connected together such that they give us a common line supplying 330 VAC, which then the EV chargers can be able to tap into and draw power to charge the vehicles. So this is our setup put up in a single line diagram, showing you how the system is wired up, giving us 2 ports for charging the EV vehicles. So the components of the system, we start with this solar panel, and this solar panel, as we said earlier, is a bifacial, giving at 15% 633. The nominal power, of course, is 550 watts, but we are considering this. It can go higher, up 25%. Then we are going to have 24 panels put together on the roof of the structure. Next, we look at the inverter charger, and the inverter charger is they come as a pair, and each has an input rated power of 8 kilowatt, and 6 units can be put together in parallel. So this gives you room for expansion feature should you have more space for putting more solar panels. The other thing about it is the high charging and discharging current. So if you have enough power, then you can quickly charge the vehicles, as compared to maybe other system which would not give you this kind of power setup. To determine the battery storage or the energy storage of the system, we make the following assumptions. Number 1 is that we have to assume that we shall have about 5 hours of available sunshine. And of course, our installed system, 6,600 watts times 2, which gives us 13,200 watts of solar power. The daily total energy production then becomes to 66,000 watt hours. And what we want to do is to have at least 1 day of storage of this power. Of course, going higher than 1 day means a bigger storage capacity, which has an implication on the system costing. So we are being modest here by just having 1 day. Then we have there that the days of autonomy is 1. The system voltage is 48 volts. The depth of discharge is 0.8, which is 80%. Inverter efficiency we have been given as 93%. Then the battery efficiency, we take this as 95%. So if we plug in these figures into this equation, we get about 1900 ampere hours. To determine the number of strings for the 48 voltage battery, we divide the system voltage divide by the voltage of the battery, which gives us 1. And the number of battery in a series is gotten from dividing the 1900 hours and the system and the voltage ampere hours, which gives us about 9.5. So this is around 10 batteries. So meaning that we need to have at least 10 batteries to store the power that we're going to produce in one day as an emergency backup power for the system. Next, here we look at the EV charger that we've identified for the system. And this is a level 2 7 kilowatt DC charger, EV charger, and it comes by default with a CCS Combo 2 charging head. So when you're going to do business with it, is that we have to put in the other adapters to make sure that it can serve other vehicles which are not able to connect to the CCS2 charger head. It has RFID support, which locks and unlocks the system. So what we are saying is that for it to be able to work for us, then we need to have adapters so that then we can be able to connect it to serve other vehicles. So by default, we see that it is a CCS Combo 2. Then we now need a CHAdeMO adapter to serve the vehicles from the Japanese market. Then there is a CCS1 for North America. Then this one, GBT for China. Then Tesla, no one charger for nearly all markets except the EU market. So we look at these adapters. So this is one adapter, CCS1 to CCS2. Then we have the CHAdeMO to GBT. Then we have this one here, which is CCS2 to GBT. Then we have the Tesla, CCS1 to Tesla. Then finally we have this CCS1 to GBT. Now these ones you require to have because we'll have different scenarios, different vehicles driving in, requiring different kinds of adapters to be in place so that you can charge them. So we need to be prepared to have nearly all adapters that are there in the market to suit each market that we'll be targeting. Now once the system is in place, then we look at the billing system. And the billing system is that we must have a strategy that is flexible and easy to use. Most drivers prefer the pay as you go, and since you'll be on a traffic corridor, you will also just need to do pay as you go. People or the drivers will come in with their credit card, then you bill them accordingly as per the use of what they have consumed. So the billing per minute is the most commonly used, but it should ensure that there is a constant supply of energy from the system, so that meaning our backup should be in full operation, so that if there's any variation in the sun intensity, then of course it is met by the backup system. Now earlier we have seen that the system delivers a charge of up to 26.4 miles or 42.2 kilometers per hour of charging. Now depending on where you are on the globe, the cost of level 2 ranges from between $1 to $5 an hour. So here you will need to bill as per your market competitiveness to dictate the price. Realize right now, because the technology is just beginning, then prices are likely to be higher. Maybe later in future, as the EVs flood the global market, then of course there'll be several charging stations, and that will bring competition in the market of charging business. Now, there are several ways you can use to accept money. One of them being using this POS system. It's a simple one, and it will enable you to bill motorists from their credit cards. The other option, of course, is using mobile phone payment, where they can pay you with mobile money, and that's it. It makes your work easier, so that maybe you don't collect cash. You can, of course, maybe have cash payment, but that, of course, can bring security issues for having cash around a charging station. Critical to the system is to make sure that it is protected, so that there's no abuse. So one thing is that the system is RFID card ready, so that to operate the EV charger, then you start it and stop it with the RFID card. So that ensures security. And of course, the RFID card will also help you to keep some data which you can review over time. The other point with the system is that it has an app which then will send you the information as it happens, especially if you're not in sight and people want to charge. The operator will, of course, or if it is yourself doing it, then you can be able to have the data with you for your accounting purposes and so on. So that is the system. We now want to look at the costing. What does it cost to put up this kind of system? On this spreadsheet, we've put on the costing estimates of some major items. And there are several components that we need to pay attention to. So we start with the container, the 20-foot container. This could have set you about $3,500, depending on where you are, of course. Actually, most of these prices will vary according to your location. So that is a container, and the structure above it, the IEP beams, the C-sections to support the solar panels, and other items. We put about $1,200 on that. Then, of course, there is a site works. Of course, there is a need for paving the place in front of the container so that vehicles can park. If there's another method, of course, maybe you can maram it up or put some chippings or so on, but definitely it requires some work to be done there because of the weight of the vehicles in front of the container. Then we come to the PV modules. We have 24 pieces, and roughly I've put we have a figure of 165. This is at roughly $0.35 per watt, and these are 550 watt panel. Then some minor items for supporting the system. Then the other major item, is the inverter, and it comes as a pack of 2, going for $2,500. Then we have the EV charger at about $800. This is the basic cost. Then you have the add-ons like the adapters and maybe the RFID cards. The billing system, of course, is a POS system that we have seen, roughly about $250. Then the battery is the major cost of this system. This is a modest cost this is a cheaper version of a lithium-ion battery. One going for $1,200. This is a 48 by 200 AH version. So if you have 10 of them, this gives already $12,000, which is a huge cost. But it is the heart of the system also, because without the battery then you'll not be able to operate properly. Then other items, fasteners, accessories, the wiring, the surge protectors, and other small items listed there. Then some studies and analysis. We've put some modest cost depending on where you are. Also, this could vary. Of course, if it is very expensive, then of course it becomes very heavy. And some installation cost. Then we have a figure here for miscellaneous, for unaccounted for expenses, which unforeseen expenses that might come along during the installation. So on the maintenance side, probably there is some minor maintenance. Then there is a cost for maybe a guard and a cleaner. Then some insurance money. Then the provision for replacing the batteries at $1,200 per year. These are yearly cost. Then the total operation cost is about $5,200 there. So give or less, take or minus, depending on how you want to put these figures here. And so the total cost is this. Then if we sell our energy for about $1 per kilowatt, then roughly we make out this $2,409 per year. So you can already see that within 1 year we are almost covering the cost of the installation. So if we subtract this 5,200 from this, we'll be left with about 19,000. 19,000 times 2 years, that will already give you 38,000, meaning that you can cover this cost within 2 years. So after that, then you'll be into profits. But of course, that will depend on how much you sell your electricity and so on. So that is the costing. With that, we come to the end of this video. And we want to thank you for again keeping it here at PVCircuits. Thanks for your time.